Awesome. So here comes the Big Short. This is one that I am literally so excited for. I think I've personally studied this movie probably 6 or 7 times. It is just so good. Um and literally I think this movie might have psychologically made me more money than almost anything else I've ever done for about 2 hours in the long term, thinking about my investments. And like, it is just pure gold. And so I'm just super excited to share it with you. So this is about the volume level that we're going to be talking at. So, you want to kind of adjust it however you like. Make sure it sounds good for you. They started off pretty intense here, so I'll let them take it. And this is kind of hinting at this idea of misconceptions that people have about investing, about markets, about what's actually going on. And we're going to see that concept develop a lot more in this movie. Treasury bonds and utility stocks. Dude, these derivatives go crazy. 1% move is like a 5,000% gain. See, this is the thing. They would rate this so high, and then they get all these pension funds to buy. And then the pension funds would buy credit default swaps. And then the default swaps would broke. You might notice some recurring themes in these movies. A lot of fundamental investing. It's pretty simple. I think you'll see that here. Cannot tell you how many times I've just asked people what they think about a company or about their products. complexity in financial markets totally like correlates to fraud. Um, this movie starts out before the inverted yield curve in 2007, so just kind of something to know about that. Housing is always stable. Research. So this guy's got a big hedge fund. And he knows how to rock out because music is literally correlated. The more exciting your music is, the higher your investment returns. It is a complete fact. It's a serious problem. I would hate to be tied to a phone. So here you can see I'm looking through tons and tons and tons of these mortgages, because if you want to understand an asset, one of the best ways to do that fundamentally is to read the balance sheet, to read the financial reports. And you really understand it at a deeper level. I want you to notice here, I makes a quick and a decisive decision. Bam. Greenspan just said. Oh, he's the Fed chairman. At least he was. A lot of times, top people influence the media. Can be on the opposite side of someone like Mark here, or Michael, who really actually looks at the information, does something contrarian, and we'll see how the big play works out. It's not like tough what he does. He takes in information and he uses it to make a decision. And it's not like a tough decision process. This process idea is that if 15% of people can't pay their mortgages, then you'll start to see it crash. Now get out. Very elegant way to describe shorting. You'll see these downturns happen so much faster than the upturns. That's why there's so much on the table here. Oh, this is interesting. I'm looking at the Japanese debt right now. There's like no instruments to short it. So look what he does here. He fucking makes the instrument. He whips it up out of thin air and creates his own opportunity. He doesn't let the fact that there's literally not even an asset he can buy stop him, because he knows that he's right. He knows that he can make the play. It's obviously a little bit easier when you have, hedge fund. So here you kind of see personal background weaving into financial decisions. I swear, I think I have the exact same suit he's wearing. This is some old laptop. But no matter what time frame you look at, you always still have the same core human emotions. And it's true here in this guy's life when he's dealing with this tragic event with his brother. And it's true when he's arguing with people, and it's true with the way people look at their investments. And I think you're going to see that over and over and over, especially as you start to get into some of the later interviews with people that are more into the actual housing industry. And here's the cool part. I want you to notice how everyone thinks he's a freaking idiot. And that's when you know you have a good investment, a phenomenal investment. The majority are very often wrong. Because when everyone says you're doing the stupidest thing ever, very often that is the thing that could change everything, because it's what everyone else is so afraid to do, so unready to even consider, that so few people will make that investment that it's going to have the most exponential returns. Yeah, so they pay monthly premiums as a contract, which is going to be important as we see this go on, because that's going to be a constant stress on a month-to-month basis. It's like paying 10,000 mortgages. Big plays here for sure. He's I know these guys are freaking laughing at him. It's kind of what they just did. It's like selling an option premium. So you get this little bit of free money, quote unquote free money. You get this little bit of money paid to you. And if you're right, then you keep that little bit of money. But if you're wrong, and I've seen this happen so many times, I've had clients, they sell options before they know, about how important it is to not. And they sell these options. And then if they're wrong, you're out so much more than you can gain. And that's what all these banks are doing. They're collecting this tiny premium, and they're risking hundreds of times what they're getting. And that's the same thing. It's just thinking that's like selling options, which you might not be there yet in the program, but that's really what they're doing here, which is kind of crazy. They're so much risk. He goes all in. And you obviously shouldn't start here. Like, he's been investing for many years. But it's really important that once you do have the skills, once you are really good, that you have the balls to go really deep into what you are completely and utterly confident in, and make really big bets. And then when you put your eggs in one basket, watch that basket closer than anything else. And we'll see how it works out here. Yeah, so the swaps, again, they do it to pay the premiums. It's a tough financial instrument, not one that's easy to trade. So here you see him, what, he's getting ridiculed, he's getting called crazy. Um, and he was pretty damn early. Um, we'll see how it works out, though. This is some crazy shit right here. Oh, I hear that sound every time I watch this movie, and it always, um, it's the sound you get on TV when you get failed, which you guys may or may not know. You'll know very soon. But anyway, such a great sound. That's the sound when you get filled or when you get out. But anyway, they hear about this trade from a wrong number. It's also the sound of money. So this is kind of where, like, some of the best opportunities you can have might be the ones you least expect, like an unknown number or something like that. See. Big stuff here. You see how he's decisive. You see how he says you need to move fast. We need to make this work. And he sticks with it. He says, look, we're going to focus exclusively on this position. This one position will account for more than 90% of our funds gains. We'll see. We'll see. Yeah, crushing it. See, this is the dumb stuff. How it used to be. You have to have $1.5 billion to even like trade the assets you want. It's that used to be total freaking bogus. So thankfully, it's a lot more transparent now. But it just shows how stupid these centralized financial markets are. Wachovia. My dad used to work at Wachovia before the Wells Fargo merger, and um, it's really that got me. It gets me every time. Options. Here comes those relationship assets. See, you don't want to start with people that like don't want to be happy. Like you always want to be with happy people. So here's like some really legit um, actual market research by talking to actual clients in the market. And so they realize that no one's living in these houses. Probably not good for them, not great for the mortgages, right? You notice him reading here because in reality, like, he's made his plays. He's put the investments in. And there's like literally nothing that he could physically do. There's no active trading that he could do that would make any reasonable impact on like the returns. So he's just kind of chilling out because a majority of the value he creates can come from a minority of his efforts. Can come from him sitting in those banks and closing those deals. And here you have like the minority being correct, right? And God, the shoe's getting comfortable. Yeah, see, it's always hard to predict the exact top. Short term. Her. But he's got a freaking plan. Real world research with people. These are the kinds of things that you just can't learn reading a balance sheet or an annual report. Five houses and a condo. They are going to destroy these mortgage-backed securities. And so here you see it happen. He makes a decisive decision once he has all the information that he needs. Yeah, so low volume, low liquidity. There are going to be some fat spreads. Now, kind of something interesting to notice here, and we're going to see it more with that other group of investors that were trying to get that bank certification, is they go all in. These guys, the other guys we were talking about that just got in, they go all in on triple Bs, and they do everything at the same risk level. Uh, and these guys, they do something a little bit more interesting where they actually spread out their investment across different risk levels. And we'll see how that works out in just a second, and we'll come back to it. See, so that's the deal. Is they're looking for something more than just what most people are thinking about, which are the mortgage-backed securities. They're looking at doing more than just shorting the basic market. They go deeper. They go into the higher levels of derivatives. They go into the higher levels of abstraction. And, no matter what they say, they go into higher levels of risk. And we're going to see how that works out very soon. But it's very critical to realize that they go deeper into the potential by going into the sketchier positions. And so to relate this to options, this would be like further out of the money puts or calls. This would be sort of, higher risk, higher reward. And you can see how confident they are, and that's how you know you can make a big bet. And you see here again, decisive decision making. I do a deal in the lobby. It's true, man. Poetry. Could not bear studying it. A lot of cool friends that are poets, but yeah. No. Oh, here it comes. Here's a really big part. You'll notice that, like, they're right, but they're not actually succeeding. It all comes down to asset selection. So in the short term, they are completely correct, and they lose money. All they have to do is sit through it. That's such a cool bull. Number one thing you could ever do: get with the bull. The rating agencies are blind. That is the metaphor here. But if you're doing illegal stuff, it's probably not good. And so here we see a little bit of sadness because with some of these big positions, it's always darkest before the dawn. And that's what we see Michael gotta do right now. But, still got the music. Bam, bam. What's interesting is, the longer that it takes for a correction to occur, the bigger the correction is. And we'll see that here. So you see, this whole presentation about how like the mortgage market is stronger and stronger and stronger, the best ever, and it's literally 2007, and it just shows that the majority of people, masses and masses of people, just don't freaking see it, and they don't look at the inverted yield curves, they don't look at the facts, and they follow what most people are doing, and it absolutely crushes their portfolio. So we'll see how that develops over time. This shit happened. And see, here you see some more of that real world market research, just talking to people, asking them what they think about the investment. It's about 5% right there, which is kind of berserk for swap. I think he hit one of the microphones. And here you see this harsh moment where he's got to get up and he's got to publicly declare his performance. He's got to state what happened, and he needs to stay accountable to the people around him. And it's a very important moment because it forces him to see what's going on with open eyes and understand that he's losing hundreds of millions of dollars with these plays. And it really puts him on the edge and makes him prove to himself inside that he is committed and he is right. Those Bloomberg terminals, those little computer screens, you can see those like $20,000 platforms. It's crazy. Notice how, like he says, when someone's wrong, they never know how. They never know how. But he sticks with it, and he gives the position time. Excuse me. There you go, right there. So instead of betting against the crappy Bs, they bet against the quote-unquote secure A's. So more risk, more upside, and these guys actually end up getting about 10 times more profit than the other guys that we see in this movie because they go deeper. About 100% or 100x. 200x. So you see 20 times greater returns by sort of making their plays a little bit more extreme. And because they're one of the few, they're part of the minority, the vast minority, that's why they have the biggest growth. Like, I don't want to take a trade if a bajillion people are taking that trade because I'm probably not going to have great potential for upside. But if no one is doing it, that's when you know. Again, these guys that are selling, they're selling without understanding all the downside, all the risk they're giving up, which is hundreds of times the premium that they're getting. They're putting down $1 and they're risking 200. But on the other side, these guys, the smart ones, are putting down $1 and they're gaining 200. this is one thing that hurts a lot. I think about this a lot. Right now, we have a lot of the same things going on. I'm making a lot of money with puts in a lot of individual stocks and also in just overall markets. But it hurts to know that, this week I made so much. But and to think that a lot of that right now comes from people dying from a virus is kind of dissettling. And so it's one thing that comes out of this when you're betting against markets. Like, yes, you're going to crush it. And it's not like I can do anything about an international virus. But it does. It's interesting. It's an interesting perspective. Anyway, this is a really good interview. Check this out. This is important. This is why central banking is so screwed up. They have totally messed up incentives. And here you have deeper and deeper financial derivatives, which leads to deeper and deeper risk and speculation. And when you get more and more abstract, that's when you get further and further away from reality, and you have more and more downside, which you could short or buy puts. And that's the kind of leverage you have right there. 50 million into a billion in securities. Never go down. It's not a good strategy. Get this guy showing off versus the giant hedge fund manager. Interesting quote I learned is the people that the most want to show just puts down 500 million. And so what happens is people that most want to show off how much money they're making are usually the ones without any money. And that's kind of what you saw with that Asian dude right there. That guy just put a bet that was probably 500, if not 1,000 times his annual income, completely against him. And that bet will go on to go up by, I think that single position they had on MBS, I think it was 28x or 30x, which is the equivalent. Well, we'll see it. You'll see it then. So I'm not gonna guess. You'll see it. This chick seriously wanted this dude. Like, she came straight to him. It was pretty crazy. Okay, now here's a really important, massive lesson. You notice that what Michael does here is he plays drums, he plays hard rock, he goes super, super hard whenever he's stressed out, whenever he's hard, when he needs a time to refresh. And this is really, really important. It's really important to have something you can do that lets you unleash, that lets you release those emotions, that lets you channel that energy. If you look at Mr. Wonderful from Shark Tank, he literally plays in a rock band, I think 2 days a week, and he'll just jam out in this garage and absolutely crush it with his friends. And that's his way to get out. You look at Robert Hujafe, the Robert from the same show, Shark Tank, freaking cool stuff. What he does is he goes and he races supercars to get his energy out. He races these supercars to sort of express himself. You look at Bill Gates, he spends weeks out of a year sitting in a Porsche with nothing but books to channel his energy, to get himself out. For me, like, skiing is like my number one thing, my favorite thing ever. And I'll just spend weeks skiing and skiing and skiing to channel everything and get everything out. And it's so important that you have a sport, or you have an activity, you have a hobby, you have something that you do that lets you release, that lets you go hard, that lets you get that sweat on your forehead and express yourself so that you can come back to work, make the tough decisions, push to new highs, and have extraordinary levels of success. That's exactly what you see happen right here. He makes a very tough decision to restrict investor withdrawals, which is something that you do not do. And it comes after that moment of decision that comes when he takes the time to reflect by doing his activity for personal understanding. I guess the music helps too. Dude, it's gotta feel so good once you start to get right. the longer you hold out, the bigger the gain. I remember recently I had this position on Coca-Cola bottling, and I shorted the stock, and I was wrong for like a year. And in the last 5 days, the stock hit my break even, and then it went down like 38%. And just cashed out, made money like that. Took forever. But the moment that you have that change, the longer you wait out, easier and faster that profit's going to be. Probably should have added to it, to be honest. But you'll see how it works out here. Garage man. And then you see kind of the normal person, the risk-averse person who doesn't want to do anything and thereby gets average returns, normal probabilities. This is where some really, really crazy news comes out. It shows a lot about the importance of correlated assets. And you see the importance of like quality, close social connections and caring about people. So this is sort of the dumb shit. And they lose their ass. It's basically like buying calls and then selling calls at a higher price to protect it, or like buying puts and then selling puts at a lower price to get the money. And so you make money at the beginning, and then as soon as it goes extreme, you lose multiples and multiples and multiples and multiples and multiples and multiples of what you risk, which is why it's really not good to sell those options. And here we have them arguing about like when to hold, and obviously it's very important to be able to hold till like your position is at its maximum value. You know, those signs actually have like pretty insignificant historical meaning. It's kind of interesting. And so here you see him trying to sell in a low liquidity market, which is not a good place to be. And what's cool is they waited so long to start making profit. Now they started to have gains. Um, it comes in super quick because the drop is so much faster than the run up. Pretty solid reason. And so you can see sort of the longer that you hold, the more balls you got, you can usually the more money you make. Got some very high tech phones here. Can you imagine what they had to go through, like making this movie? Like, how are we gonna get all these Blackberries? Watch you notice how much money's in this room. These guys control and influence a lot of money. You'll see how that matters. This guy on the left's about to lose $100 million in net asset value. Ooh, don't want to jinx it. Everyone's like running out of the room to sell the stock. Like we were talking about earlier, if you're in this guy's position, you need to take a minute to step back, step away from your pride, and objectively look at the investment and say, is this still a good investment? Instead of just blindly saying, buy more, buy more, buy more, buy more. Sometimes you can get out of a position, and I've had this happen so many times. I'll get out of a position, and like I'll take a slight loss. Bam, bankrupt, $0. Like when a stock goes bankrupt, it is $0. But anyway, I'll have these positions, take a little bit of a loss, and go invest that cash in otherwise outperforming investments. And you don't actually get to reinvest if you don't just cut it. So just the thing about discipline. The crazy guy who just correctly predicted the crash. Now he's crazy buying stocks when they're super low. And he just can't take the shit of hearing everyone else whine at him anymore after he makes them billions of dollars. It's pretty freaking dope. $269 billion. A lot. $1 billion. It's crazy. It's super awesome. So everything settles up, and you have trillions gone from average people. You have millions of jobs lost, homes destroyed, and it's so crazy. I mean, you guys know what happened. Crazy, crazy cool stuff. Ah, so much here. Um, about like going against the grain and doing things that nobody else would even consider an option, and how much that can actually turn into to massive, massive, massive financial payout. Audited 4 times and questioned by the FBI. Goes crazy. All because he made the ballsy choice that nobody else really saw. And I guess we're kind of seeing this now again in this with this asset, and also with just the insane explosion of like index fund asset allocation with ETS mostly. And that's the Big Short, man. Oh my god, so much gold to learn from these guys who bet against everyone. They bet against the street, they bet against the world, they bet against their family, they bet against it all because they saw the facts for what they were. They were inside the game. And they didn't get the top 100% perfect. But man, they hit it out of the park, and they literally set themselves up for the rest of their lives because they just spent a little bit of time figuring out what was going on, and then they put everything into sort of the housing market, and leveraging against that. And they had sort of a lot to start with. I mean, most of these guys, they had literally millions and millions and millions, if not billions, when they were starting. And I know that's not where most people start with. So what's cool is you can kind of mimic that performance in any kind of quick downturn, quick upturn. And it just comes down to playing the exact same game with individual stocks. So instead of betting against the entire housing market, maybe you bet against Toll Brothers Housing, or maybe you bet against Home Depot. Maybe you bet against these individual stocks that are going to have a lot more individual volatility, and you can get the same returns as a billion-dollar hedge fund with just a couple grand in your portfolio, when you kind of play your cards the right way, and you can trade sort of options on these more individualistic, more volatile stocks, which is pretty freaking sweet. Just kind of comes down to like what you get into, and how deep you go into speculative investments. Or really, I mean, I don't know. I mean, you can look at options all day and see the exact same thing. And really, you just kind of have to figure out what works best. And then as soon as you find that, you find out what works best for you, works best for your portfolio, what works to hold you down and to have the most success in your field, all of a sudden it becomes way, way, way easier to actually have that overarching growth, because you're making decisions not based on what the herd is doing, not based on what the masses are doing, not based on what the majority are doing, but instead you're making quality, educated decisions based on the facts that you know to be true. And that's kind of the big shift. That's the big difference. And that's the massive, massive reason to have the confidence, to have the conviction, and to have the belief in yourself to go against the grain, to go against the masses, and to step up and be more, achieve more, and earn more. And once you master that, it's golden, and it's all right there for the taking. At a very simple level, it just comes down to sort of figuring out what the opportunities are, and then once you find sort of those right opportunities, all of a sudden, all you have to do is stick with your decision over and over and over again. And what happens is, when you put in the right work, when you do the right research, when you put in the right effort, and you know what you're talking about, you actually fundamentally understand what you're doing, and you kind of combine that a little bit with technicals, you combine that a little bit with life, and you understand sort of an overarching view of what's going on, all of a sudden it becomes so much more easier to get that end result, to have the success, to have that growth, to have that gain. Because at the end of the day, a lot of it only really comes from the little effort you put in at the beginning, and then it turns into reality over time. And I think that was one of the massive takeaways here. Besides this idea of like fundamental research and like actually knowing what you're investing in, which is also just really good. And you see that through the real life examples. You see that through the numbers. What's interesting is there were three kind of main groups of investors here, and this doctor guy, like, all he did was look at numbers, and that was it. And the other groups, they spent a lot more time out socially looking for what things to do. And the two dudes, like, in the garage, they just spent most of their time on the phone with that other old guy. So they kind of saturated their efforts on one person, while everyone else, or at least the big group, was focused more on the world around them. And so you see kind of three different ways to interact with people, three different ways to surround yourself with people, and still really get the exact, they're very, very similar end result. And so it's really cool that, like, you just have to find a style of communication and research that works well for you, and then pick whatever that social style is, and then stick with it, and it just works out. You just have to be sort of who you are and what you're skilled at, and you just do the same thing over and over and over again. You pick that style, you stick with it, and you just find that investment that absolutely blows out of the water, that one investment that can change everything. And I've had a lot of those, and it's just, oh my God, such an absolutely phenomenal feeling. It just, and I just hope you get the exact same. Now that you understand that there's actually that possibility from it. So, with that said, thank you so much. Hope you get a ton of value out of this movie. Go out there, apply it, absolutely crush it. I'll see you guys later. Thank you. Bye.